Today, we're charting a completely new world map. You see, the old lines of trade and influence, they're being ripped up and redrawn as we speak. Now, for most people, this kind of change is just, well, it's just risk. But for the investor who's paying attention, it is a generational opportunity. So let's get into it.
I am Mr. Tommy, and welcome to FinAnatomy. What we're doing today is analyzing these massive global shifts. And just so we're clear, while I track these geopolitical currents for a living, this is not financial advice. Think of it this way. I provide the map, you have to drive the car. Okay, with that said, let's take a look at the alliances that are truly reshaping our world right now.
So here's how we're going to break it all down. First, we have to understand the chaos, this fracturing of the old world order. Then, we're going to trace the biggest fault line, the massive decoupling between the US and China. From there, we'll look at America's big countermove, and then, this is the important part, we'll follow the money into the specific sectors that are really benefiting. And finally, I'll give you a new compass for this new world.
You know, for decades, things were pretty stable. The world operated under a system basically led by the United States. Well, that era is over. What we're seeing now is the rapid rise of these distinct competing economic blocs. Each one has its own agenda, its own currency, its own vision for the future. The game has totally changed.
So you've got two major camps squaring off. On one side, you have the G7, you know them, the advanced economies that literally built the post-war system, things like the World Bank and the IMF. But on the other side, you've got the BRICS Plus alliance. And let me be clear, this is not just some economic club. No, this is a geopolitical earthquake. It's a direct, coordinated challenge to Western dominance, designed to build a whole new financial and trade system.
And here's the crucial part, the thing you really need to get. The balance of power, it's already tipped. It was predicted, right, that by 2025, the BRIC economies would be bigger than half the size of the G6 nations combined. Well, guess what? That prediction is now reality. This is not some future forecast anymore. This is the new economic baseline.
So what's the main engine driving all this fragmentation? Well, it's this intense, high-stakes rivalry between the United States and China. And right at the heart of it all is a battle for one thing: technological supremacy. I mean, this isn't just about who sells more phones, it's about who gets to write the rules for the 21st century.
You can trace the start of the current trade war all the way back to 2015, with Beijing's Made in China 2025 plan. Now, this wasn't just some industrial policy. This was a declaration of war on the existing tech order. The goal was simple: dominate the very sectors, AI, semiconductors, aerospace, that have kept America on top for decades. And Washington? Well, Washington saw it as a direct threat, and the response has been absolutely massive.
And you can just watch this escalate year by year. It started in 2022 with controls on the advanced chips themselves. A year later, it expanded to the actual software used to design them. By 2024, they were targeting advanced packaging and high-bandwidth memory. These are critical bottlenecks for AI. And then in 2025, they turned up the heat even more, blacklisting more companies and even targeting specific high-end chips. See, this isn't a blanket ban. It's a series of surgical strikes aimed right at the choke points of modern technology.
Now, in response to all this, the United States is not just sitting back and playing defense. Oh no, it is actively building a new kind of economic fortress by completely reshaping global supply chains. And folks, this might just be the most significant economic shift of our entire lifetime.
You're going to hear these two terms a lot: friendshoring and nearshoring. So what do they actually mean? It's pretty simple, really. Friendshoring means moving your critical manufacturing to countries that are your political allies. Nearshoring means bringing it closer to home, right here in our own hemisphere. This is a deliberate pivot away from cheap at all costs towards security and resilience. The goal is to build a trade bloc that can weather any geopolitical storm.
And this isn't just some theory, okay? You can literally see the money moving. Look at these numbers. Projections show that by 2033, trade between the US and Mexico is going to grow by a massive $315 billion. Trade with the EU, up over $300 billion. The money is shifting. North America is becoming an economic fortress, walled off from all that uncertainty across the Pacific.
Okay, so we've talked about the why. The world is fracturing. We've seen the how, this great decoupling and friendshoring. Now we get to the part that really matters to every single investor. Where is the capital actually flowing? Because right now, governments are pouring unbelievable amounts of money into sectors they've decided are critical for their own survival.
And it really boils down to three key areas that are just magnets for capital right now. First, you've got defense and aerospace. That's the shield in a dangerous world. Second, you have technology and semiconductors. That's the sword in the fight for the future. And third, critical materials and energy.
That's the fuel that powers the other two. So let's start with the most obvious one. When the world gets more dangerous, when your alliances feel a little shaky, what's the one thing that every government on Earth will spend more on? National security. It's not just another line item in a budget anymore. It becomes an existential necessity.
And look, this isn't just a U.S. phenomenon. The European Union, realizing just how vulnerable they are, is planning to issue 150 billion euros in debt for one reason: to support made-in-EU defense. That's a huge shift. It tells you that every nation wants total control over its own defense capabilities, and that means a massive boom for defense companies right here in the Western Bloc.
Now, moving on to tech, the new buzzword you have to know is sovereign AI. This is the big idea that for a country to stay competitive and secure, it has to control its own AI supply chain. Everything from the chips to the data centers to the algorithms. The race for AI dominance is, without a doubt, the new space race.
So how does the U.S. plan to stay ahead in this race? It's all about controlling these choke points in the semiconductor supply chain. This gets a little technical, but it's absolutely crucial. They're targeting the most advanced manufacturing equipment, the super specialized software used to design chips, the high bandwidth memory that AI needs to function, and even the complex packaging techniques to put it all together. By controlling these key points, the U.S. basically gets to set the pace for AI development around the world.
And you know what underpins literally everything we've just talked about? Every fighter jet, every data center, every single electric vehicle? It's all built on a foundation of critical materials. The fight for these rare earth elements and other key minerals has kicked off a modern-day gold rush, and securing these supply chains is now a matter of national survival.
In this table really just connects the dots. Neodymium isn't just some weird word you forgot from chemistry class. It's what you need for the magnets in EVs and wind turbines. Terbium and dysprosium? Absolutely critical for semiconductors. Samarium and gadolinium? You can't build modern military radars or guided missiles without them. The bottom line is, if you control these elements, you control the key technologies of the future.
So let's bring it all together. The world is breaking apart. Supply chains are being redrawn right before our eyes, and governments are jumping into the market with both feet. The old playbook of just pure, frictionless globalization, it's obsolete. For the investor who's prepared, this new map requires a new compass. It's time to find your true north. Look, if you remember nothing else from this explainer, remember these 3 key takeaways. First, fragmentation is the new reality. Get used to it. Plan for a world with competing teams, not one big happy family. Second, friendshoring is rewriting the rules of trade. You have to watch where the supply chains are going because the capital is right behind them. And third, focus on those strategic sectors getting all that government support: defense, sovereign AI, and critical materials. This is where the opportunities are going to be.
The next few years are going to be defined by volatility, no question about it. But the chaos isn't random. It's being driven by very clear geopolitical forces. And if you understand those forces, you can move from just reacting to everything to a position of true strategic foresight. The greatest risk you face is not the storm itself. It's trying to use the old map while the entire world is changing under your feet.
Don't try to navigate this new world map all by yourself. Subscribe to FinAnatomy for the compass you're going to need. I'm Mr. Tommy. Stay safe out there.